So now we're live, and
Okay.
we can start. And I think you had a series of questions from Kay.
Yes. Um, do you just want me to work my way down through those?
Yeah, that would be a good place to start about,
Okay.
how long you've been using the e-learning system.
We have been with Jenzabar since early 90s, 1993, 94. Wait a minute. Let me back that up a minute. We've been with Jenzabar since 2003 or 2004. And we are one of the original LMS customers. So we've been with their LMS product before we were offering online classes. We were a Jenzabar customer. So we've been with their LMS, then with Eraser, and now with e-learning.
Okay. And one of the questions, do you host or?
We host our own e-learning through our own servers here.
Is there a reason why you chose to host yourself?
I did get some feedback from our tech services department on some of this. I did not specifically ask him that particular question. I know that we do our own upgrades, and with the exception of one upgrade, they have been very smooth, but we have had to use their support. I'm not sure why we made that initial decision to host ourselves. It may be that that was the only option when we started. I really don't know. I can't say, but I can find out for you.
That would be great, because we won't be hosting, self-hosting.
Okay.
They will be hosting for us, and so the 4 people that we've contacted, all of them, four people, all of them seem to be self-hosting. So we're kind of curious as to why that option was chosen.
My guess is if they were both options, it was purely budgetary at the time.
Yeah.
Again, it's a complete guess.
Yeah.
So let me ask that particular question.
That would be great.
We do have both the production and a test server. And we always, when we have an upgrade, particularly on e-learning, we always upgrade the test server first to trial that. We sort of have an institutional policy where we will not apply an e-learning upgrade in the middle of a regular semester term. I don't know if you've heard that from other people or not. So we do big upgrades at the end of December, and then again, usually towards the end of May. But we have classes running every day of the year here. So it's very hard to find a day when no one's on the system. We just take the times when the fewest students are enrolled.
What kind of downtime do you have during those upgrades?
We generally advertise a 4-hour window. Most of the upgrades are much faster than that. There was the one big upgrade that we had problems with was when we went to version 1.6, which is the changeover in coursework, where they went back into every previous class and converted the old coursework assignments to the new coursework. And because we were such a long time customer, at least that's what we think and what Jenzabar thinks, because we had so much data, that particular upgrade just took us a long time. We trialed 2 or 3 times and had communication back and forth with Jenzabar to get through that before we tried it on the production server.
And that was migrating course content, is that?
Well, the version 1.6 that came out was the version that completely recoded the coursework portlet. There were more features available within coursework. It was a pretty hefty change from Jenzabar. And what they did with that one, because of the new functionality of it, they went back to all of the old courses and converted them up to that functionality. I think their decision on that was so that when instructors did course copies, they would have the new coding in there.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, good.
other than that particular upgrade, the upgrades run smoothly. There are times where you do an upgrade and you know that you're fixing problem X and you're getting functionality Y. And those two things work great in the new upgrade, but then Z over here all of a sudden is broken or isn't working the way it was, or reverts back to how it was 3 versions ago. So there are some little flukes like that. You just kind of live with those and move forward, but they are out there.
I think that's true of any LMS.
Well, that's good to hear.
Or any browser. And we see a lot of that when there's a browser update. It doesn't play well with the LMS. And
yes, and we've gone through our share of browser issues. We just flat out tell our students, don't use Internet Explorer. It is the worst. Of course, and maybe not so much now, but when we really started doing a lot of online classes, it was the most prevalent browser. We encourage students to use Mozilla Firefox or Google Chrome.
yeah, we do too. Yeah.
What about the Mac world with Safari? Do you have any problems?
I have not. We have a number of students on iPads in particular. I have not experienced any problems. I have an iPad, which is great because as the administrator of the LMS, I can go in and do things on the iPad. There have been a couple things that I just prefer to do on a computer because it's easier on the bigger screen. And I can't think of what it is, but I think there's one other thing I've encountered where it just didn't work right on the iPad. But normal stuff, going into instructors' classes and troubleshooting what's wrong, if I'm at home or off campus, I can use my iPad with no problem.
That's good
Okay,
to know.
that's real good.
Yeah.
Good.
I like that.
So question 4 is Jenzabar's customer support. I think that they are usually very fast. This is one of the questions I asked our tech service guy, John, about. And since Jenzabar had a change in staffing a couple years ago, and we have both noticed since then that the support has improved. We usually get a response the same day. If it's late in the day, it'll come in early the next morning. And a lot of times they're very quick and they're thorough with their response. Sometimes we don't like the answer. Sometimes the answer is, well, we'll get this on the list and it'll be fixed with the next upgrade. Or sometimes they release a hot fix. So sometimes they know what's wrong. It's a reported issue. Sometimes they're hearing it for the first time from us. If it's something they can fix, a lot of times they'll say, okay, you just need to add this coding. And John goes in and does that, and then it works. But there have been a few times where we've had to wait for a hot fix or wait for the next release to get the problem resolved. But as far as the support, they seem to be quick. They seem to be knowledgeable. The only thing is sometimes we don't like what they have to say.
Yeah.
So question 5, is it easy for the administrators, faculty, and student? I am going to say yes. I think the steepest learning curve is probably for the faculty. And I'm saying the systems admin, we tend to be tech savvy anyway, so it's pretty easy for us to pick it up. The students, especially with the newer upgrades that have come with the LMS, they seem to do fine with it as well. We do have a training class that we offer to every student that's enrolled. It's a not-for-credit class, and every student is enrolled into it. We're doing that through a portal only. So we have a series of skills that we think every student should know, and we walk them through that. And so through that, they learn how to post in the forums and how to do an online assignment and how to do an upgrade assignment, how to take a screenshot, because we have a lot of instructors that require screenshots of different things. And we're doing all of those with using our policies and our practices. So like the online assignment covers academic honesty and our policy for that. The screenshot covers netiquette. We're just trying to infuse a little bit of good information for students along with the tech skills. So for faculty, there used to be a much steeper learning curve. Some of the recent upgrades, what Jenzabar is trying to do is make it more intuitive, more verbiage on the screen that tells the instructor, what does this mean? What is going to happen if you do this? So they're building that in. There's still always the learning curve about what do you call the forums? Are they discussion boards or are they forums? Our coursework is called coursework. Of course, that's our internal branding. We kept most of Jenzabar's straight out of the box portlet names. So there's that piece of it, but then there's learning how to configure certain things to do what you want it to do. I still get instructors that have been using it for a while. I just had one the other day. She wanted to use an online assignment to take a vote in class, and she had it configured, the choices configured, but every student was getting a 0 instead of, regardless of which choice they got, they should get 100 on it. So I helped her through that, and it actually turned out to be 199% depending on which choice they picked. So there's little flukes like that you just kind of have to think about. How can we tweak this? How can we apply? How can we get it to do what we want it to do? But for our face-to-face instructors coming in, setting up coursework assignments and getting grades in the grade book, it's pretty straightforward. The hybrid and online instructors, they're doing okay with it as well.
Are the training for both student and faculty, are they required, and is that part of the practice there at the university, or is it if you need help, here's where you go get help?
Well, with the student orientation, we populate, if you are enrolled in a class at Neosha, then you are going to have access to NC 105, which is what we call our student orientation. We do not require it, but it does show up with the students' courses. Under My Courses, where they see everything that they're enrolled in, they will also see NC 105. So we have a lot of students that will just be clicking through their classes and go in and start doing it. So it's optional.
Okay.
It's available to every student. There are some instructors, however, that require it. So when a student is finished, if they work all the way through and they have to get 100% on everything, we just keep reopening and re-guiding them to get what they need to do to get the 100%. The last assignment is a request for a certificate. So we generate a PDF certificate for each student that completes. And then we use that so that student can upload that to any instructor that requires a certificate.
Okay.
Some instructors have it as optional, strongly encourage that the students do it. Others require it as a grade in their class.
Okay.
But once the student does it, they don't have to redo it. We've been running that, I want to say, for 6 or 7 years, and we have done what I would call one hefty redo on it, where we went through and added a couple more. When we got the forum connection between a coursework assignment and the forums, we went through and added, changed the forum assignment so that it would do that. We also have a portlet. It's not part of the LMS, but it is on our portal, where the students can read their email on our portal. So we have them configure that. We've added that. But other than that, the basic, we've made minor revisions as we go along. But those two assignments, that was a major redo of that. And the students, if they've got the old certificate, they don't have to redo it and get the new one.
Okay.
Now, you also asked about instructors.
Yes.
We basically, we offer trainings every semester. At the beginning of the semester, we do what we call Inside NC updates, where we talk about what's new and hit on some of the things that we've done. We did a major redesign of our template for our classes 2 or 3 years ago. So we still have some instructors that are coming over to the new template. I think we're there now. But some new things that are going on, we just try to do that. We don't have a required professional development training on Inside NC. It's more maybe what I would call piecemeal, where when we have a new instructor, we try to get with them more on a one-to-one basis. Or, 6-to-1. If we've got 6 new ones at the start of this semester, we'll do a webinar orientation to it. What you're seeing on the screen is an optional class called the Online and Hybrid Instructor Certification course, which we offer to any faculty member here. And if they work their way through this and get a 94% in the class, they get a certificate saying they're certified to teach online and hybrid for the college. But it is optional. We do provide 3 credit hours of professional development for them through this. They have a 6 hours every 5 years is the requirement for instructors, so they can get half of that by completing this course.
Okay.
We intend to create, this is NC 201, we intend to create a 200, which is all about teaching. And then we intend to create a 101, which is a welcome to Neosha, which would be for staff and faculty when they come on to learn about policies and practices, with some videos from certain individuals at the college, etc.
Okay.
But that's a little bit about what we're doing now.
I didn't mean to stray away from the questions, but we're going through that as well.
I sort of strayed myself in my answer.
That's okay.
That's good information.
So number 6, do you find the support documentation helpful and easy to understand? I think that it is getting a lot better. The portions that I read are especially on the LMS, they tend to be very well written and thorough. They're generally more than what the ordinary faculty member is looking for. So they tend to cover every single possible scenario, which is what you would expect from a thorough manual. But the average faculty member just wants to know this particular thing. Mm-hmm. So I have used pieces of it before. I typically rebrand with our own pictures of our own portal and then create just 1-page or 2-page documents on the key things that most faculty are doing. Now, as far as the upgrades themselves, I asked John in Tech Services, and he said the documentation for the upgrades, it's pretty good and it's easy to follow. However, if you skip several versions so that when you upgrade, you're doing several upgrades, he said it can be difficult to determine what's changed in between versions. So you basically have to go in and skim the upgrade documentation for every version that you skipped if you want to know what's changed. They have a great user-built wiki site, and a lot of information for IT folks is there as well. So a lot of, I don't know if you're already using their JIX product.
I think so. This is new to me as far as the student services software and payroll and things of that nature. I assume we are, and are actually working to upgrade those. That's the way I should state that.
Okay. You might check out their wiki and just see the wealth of information that's out there. I've found portals that schools that are larger than us have people dedicated to building portlets, have the skill set and have the time to do that. And then they share their coding, or they share the functionality, and we'll share the coding if you ask them.
When you say portlet, what is that? Can you
Okay, the portlet is basically if you're looking at the screen, on the design that we're using, there's still a box around the portlet. So about this course is a portlet, and you can see the outline of it. That happens to be a free-form context portlet. That's the name of the portlet from Jenzabar. This is one of the shifts that I can talk about just a little bit. It used to be you would have one page and maybe 4 or 5 portlets or boxes on that page. But there are some pages, like coursework, that 1 page, 1 portlet. So I think the idea from Jenzabar is to move to having one page with one portlet on it. So here's a look at our coursework page that just has a list of coursework assignments.
Okay.
We have a page called resources that has two portlets, one for handouts and one for bookmarks. And handouts and bookmarks are the Jenzabar names for those portlets. Does that help with the terminology?
Yes, definitely.
It's equivalent to
All right.
a nugget in
Yes.
Blackboard.
Yes.
Number 7, do your faculty feel they have the features and functionality they need to create an effective learning environment? It's an interesting question. I'm going to say yes. We have over the years, especially in the last 3 or 4 years since Jenzabar really dedicated some resources to e-learning and made some major revisions to it. We've had faculty, a number of adjuncts, some of our full-timers coming in from institutions that use other LMSs, including Blackboard, and indicate that they can do more with our Insight and See. So
Okay.
there are some things that I get requests for occasionally. There is no built-in wiki to Jenzabar's e-learning. However, we use wiki spaces, and I'm not signed in, but you can see that wiki spaces is displaying on this page. We're using what's called the external content portlet to do that. So if there is something like a wiki that they want to use, we find a Web 2.0 tool, and then we hold it inside of the class for them. And that has worked fairly well.
Good.
But there's a little bit of a learning curve. Once the faculty members learn that the pencil is edit and the trash can is delete, and they learn the terminology, and they learn a few things about, and you can see the new admin bar. This is relatively new. I think that's a year old for us now. Again, it's more intuitive to the faculty member. Hey, I want to know who's going to have permissions to see this page. Well, that's under access. Or I want to move the portlets around. That's under layout or rearrange. So it's more intuitive for them. Once they learn a few things, they really can do what they want to do with it.
Okay.
Now, on the flip side of that, a little bit, when we talk about this is how I want to set up my grading structure, there are some things, not pulling in external things, not how to get text in and all of that, but just the functionality that exists. Like, I want to make an assignment, but I want it to be extra credit. We're not real happy with all the options for extra credit. That's when I hear a lot of, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Our nursing faculty, do you have a nursing program?
Yes, we do.
Our nursing faculty have a large portion of work in their class that students have to get a 76% on in order to pass the class, but it doesn't factor into their final grade. So, there's some situations like that where we have to, again, go in and be creative. And we've done that more as an entire nursing faculty, trying to figure out how we're going to set it up so that everyone's doing it the same way. We've been able to do that, by the way. So I would say overall, yes, the faculty are pretty happy with what they can do for their classes. Number 8, does the LMS, can you easily upload and integrate all types of documents and multimedia files? So I've got a Wordle image right there. We've got a video that we've embedded over here. So we have had good success with embedding videos. This is actually a YouTube, it's our own video that we've placed on YouTube. So we also have a Films on Demand account, and we have some of our instructors that use Films on Demand videos. I will say we have had issues with browser security blocking some of our content. YouTube videos tend to come through just fine. This could be something on our site that we just don't have working properly, but when we place when we place like a films on demand video, it just looks like a blank box, and the student has to enable the browser security to show the content. But we can embed it. We can do the hyperlinks. If we go back to the resources page, the only complaint that I've really had on the handouts portlet is where instructors upload files. The general ones they can do, we encourage instructors to turn everything to a PDF first. So PDFs are no problem, Word docs are no problem, Excel documents. I used to teach an Access database class, and we've exchanged databases this way as well on the file upload for the students. About the only problem that I've had is a very, very large PowerPoint file. Sometimes the instructor will have to split it into 2 pieces to get it uploaded, so it would be PowerPoint Part 1 and PowerPoint Part 2. But other than that, I think we've done things fairly well. There is, in the text side somewhere, there's a master list of all the file extensions that are allowed.
Okay.
So I've had to go in a couple times and ask IT to add some stuff. And the Access database was one of those. We couldn't figure out why we couldn't upload them, and then we realized it wasn't included in the out-of-the-box list.
Part of the administrative settings where you would add that extension, correct?
Yes, but it's not on the portal. It's
Okay.
somewhere, I don't know if it's, and I say it's not on the portal because I don't believe I have access to it. If I do, I don't know where it is in the site admin. I think it's something that's housed in a table somewhere. I don't get into the tables on the back end. I just send all that stuff over to IT and they do it.
And that is an advantage of being self-hosted. You're not locked out of areas when a third party hosts the site. So you may have access, again, as you stated, it could be somewhere, but many times these other companies don't allow you in there, and you have to actually create a ticket and then go through the process of them doing all the work for you.
And honestly, sometimes we're creating a ticket so they can tell us exactly where we need to go. But
I see.
The tickets are included.
Okay.
But some things that we do routinely or do them often enough, we just know the routine or know exactly where it goes. On the IT side, I don't, but they do.
Understand.
So sometimes John will say, well, let's open a ticket and make sure that we're going to the right spot, and then he'll go in and do it.
Okay.
Let's see. Are we down to 9?
Number 9, yes.
Were there hidden costs? No, I don't think so. You are aware there's the maintenance fee every year, which is pretty standard on something like this. I will be quite honest, there are a lot of things that Jenzabar has that we do not have. So we have the base JICs, and we have the e-learning, and we have, I think, 4 of the CRMs. But there's other functionality that they have that we have not purchased, so it's not available to us.
Okay.
Now, if it were free or included, we would definitely be using it. But particularly in recent years, we're not buying anything extra. Budget constraints are.
Sure.
Did you know I'm in Kansas?
Yes.
Let's just leave it at that.
Today we were viewing some of the videos that are listed on the Jenzabar site. One of the neat little tools that we discovered was the meeting tool, where you can actually go in and schedule a meeting, and I'm saying that maybe that's similar to a chat, and you can record that.
That is, I think you're talking about Jenzabar meetings or online meetings. It's actually Big Blue Button.
Yes, that is correct. That's a separate module?
It is. It's more, and we don't have it. But I'll tell you what we have found recently is Zoom.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Zoom?
No.
So I switched over to a campus group. So I'm actually it's going to look similar to the LMS, but it's actually just base JICs. The campus groups run out of JICs.
Okay.
But we do tutoring. We have online tutoring options for any of our students that need it. So we have a nursing tutor is probably our most active tutor. We used to do tutoring through the chat room. So here's a look at the chat room. This is a standard portlet in the LMS as well. This is basically text. That's all you get. Okay. So you can have a conversation back and forth. You can't look at a picture of a heart and label things. You can't bring in anything else. It's strictly text-based. You can print it, and you can, I used to, believe it or not, have what I called instructor-led study groups for my college algebra class. And I would spend 2 or 3 hours sometimes in a chat session with students trying to work through a math problem. So I got to the point where I would highlight it and paste it into a Word document as we went so that I could have a complete transcript of it by the end of the night. Sure would have been nice to have a whiteboard.
Yeah.
And on our previous version, our chat rooms were broken. And that was one of the things. We got the answer from Jenzabar, but we really were not happy with the answer that we got. And so we went an entire semester with no chat room functionality. And our online instructors were using the chat room for study groups or online office hours. So that really was a problem for us. So we stumbled across Zoom, and our nursing tutor has been using Zoom. I haven't used it in this browser, evidently, but it's similar to GoToMeeting.
Okay.
However, it's free. So we really like that price tag.
Sure.
You can use it for, I think, 40 minutes, and then it will kick you out and you start another session. But it has the desktop sharing, it has the cameras, it has a whiteboard feature, it records, it does all of that. I am looking at an institutional license for it so that I can have all of the reporting data from our tutoring rooms, but our new plan is to get a Zoom room for each of our classes. And like Wikispaces, we're hosting this as an external content portlet. So
Okay.
this is actually the Zoom website that's showing up right there.
Kind of in a sense the launch page to...
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it actually will function right there.
Right.
If I logged into the Wikispaces, I would have full functionality. This actually, Zoom is going to take over the whole screen once we get in it. So it is a little bit different. Excuse me. So Big Blue Button, the online meetings, it's a product that I looked at and wanted, but we couldn't write the price tag for it. So we're looking for Web 2.0 tools that are less expensive.
Do you recall how much Big Blue Button?
No, and it's priced, the way they do their pricing is based on your FTE.
Got it.
So it would probably be different for you anyway.
I understand.
They also have a syllabus tool, which was very, very enticing to us, but we did not go with. And they have 2 different versions of survey tools, course eval tools. Sorry. And I desperately want one of those as well, but I don't have it. So,
Marie, I want to step back for 1 second because when you look at the big picture of an LMS, some of the questions are not asked up front. You are relying on a browser to bring up a shell that then brings up the shell of a third-party software or interactive component. What we see in there are 3 different pieces that can play well together, or as we know, they don't work well together. Mm-hmm. We are in a push for web accessibility for Section 508, which I'm sure in Kansas, the Section 508 laws are a little bit different as they apply to the American Disabilities Act. Have you ever had any issues with individuals with disabilities accessing your system in a browser as a third-party vendor?
I am going to say not that I am aware of.
Okay.
What I will say related to ADA, that was sort of an eye-opener for some of our faculty. It's been 2, maybe 3 years ago that we got a site license for Camtasia and started encouraging our faculty to do some lecture recording. Along with the lecture recording, they became aware of the need to provide a transcript for ADA purposes. We have had another student more recently, just last year, that had severe vision issues, and we have some piece of equipment on our other campus where she was located, where she would have to take print materials, and I think it was somehow connected to the internet, so she could read it. She could read the screen through that other, what I understood was archaic piece of technology.
I see.
I have not had anyone come to me and indicate that they have a student that has raised any questions or complaints, other than the request for transcripts.
Okay. Good. Good.
So
that in itself, when you try to test something in an environment similar to that, it's not easy. And if you're able to dissect each piece as it applies to itself and know that it is compliant, it tends that there are not as many issues. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, I think, talking about all these things that we're doing with the external content portlet, the biggest issue that we have is when it just looks like a blank box.
Okay.
And the students don't understand always about the enable browser security. We've recorded a video that shows them how to do it in the 3 major browsers, but still they don't necessarily know.
Okay.
Let's see. Slow response time during peak times. And I sent this straight over to IT, and he said yes, at least it's not as fast during our registration times and other peak times of the year as it normally is, but he thinks that's an issue with our setup and not specifically with the LMS. And I would say typically that lag time that he's talking about at registration time, it's usually not even noticeable to the average user. They may be waiting another second or two. There are some times where everything just slows down and it's immensely unnoticeable, and I have to call him, and he's done some reboots on servers before, but I think what he's alluding to there is we think that's our setup and not any fault of Jenzabar's.
Okay.
And those are pretty irregular, not very frequent, just maybe a handful of times over the last 6 or 7 years that we've encountered anything like that.
Are there concurrency issues, meaning, let's say 500 students at one particular point in time would slug the system? Do you have any data like that?
Our nursing department, several years ago, they wanted to move to using our testing. They wanted to do their tests through our LMS. And so we took 48 nursing students to the computer lab and had them all do their online test. We did experience a little bit of issues at that point, and this has been 4 or 5 years ago. Our fix for it was to have the first row log in, and then the second row of students log in, and then the third row of students log in, and that worked better than having all 48 of them hit let's start it at the same time. The nursing department did not go with Inside NC at that point. They went with a different vendor for their testing, and that vendor is no longer available. So they have just in the last year come back to Inside NC, and they are running their testing through Inside NC, and we've not had any reports of issues. And I'm talking about 48 students in the same lab taking the test at the same time.
Right. Okay.
We don't tend to hear comments from students, in our online classes. While they may have the same window, they're not all starting at the same time. The biggest issue I can share related to students who are off campus, who might be accessing the system, when they are in an online assignment, they sometimes lose their connectivity. So they might lose a page of their work. So we've worked with our instructors to set pagination so they don't have 60 questions on one page. The way the LMS works is when the student goes to the next page, then it sends a save back to the server. So the students think, well, I'm answering questions, I'm sending information back, but in actuality, none of the information goes back until they go to the next page. So we've handled that internally with our instructors, setting their pagination, either a section to a page or 5 questions per page are our most popular choices on that. We've also had some improvements from Jenzabar because they now have an autosave feature that's built in to those online assignments. And our issues with that have gone down immensely with those 2 changes that we've had. So it's very rare. We will occasionally have a student that loses their Wi-Fi connection while they're in an online assignment. So we try to tell them, don't rely on Wi-Fi when you're taking a test, but it still happens occasionally.
I've asked this question. If you, as the LMS administrator, what would cause you to throw this program out the window? What's the number one thing that you have issues with that you would like a different LMS?
Well, I'll tell you quite honestly, I haven't spent a whole lot of time thinking about that because I think we're pretty much married to this.
Okay, good.
So what I'm saying is I don't think it's my call, and I don't think the vice presidents are interested at all in talking about a different product. Okay. So we've lived with a lot of things since I've been at Neosha for 11 years. So we've lived with a lot of things through the LMS. And I was on the e-learning advisory board for a while. I was on the board when we did the major coursework revision and some of the changes I rolled off last year, so I've not been on this school year. I've been pretty pleased with a lot of the changes that have come. The only thing is they come slowly. When you see designs for what coursework could look like, and it's 2 years later before you actually can put it in the hands of your faculty, that's the biggest frustration for me related to wanting more. Let me think. What else? I'll tell you the other big advantage is the seamless interfacing with our database. It is super nice to be able to say to a student, you just enrolled, well, within 10 minutes or 5 minutes, as soon as the transfer rolls, you should be able to access your courses. I'm working on a degree at an institution, and I had to wait 24 hours. I had to wait overnight. I enrolled it first thing in the morning, and it wasn't until the next day. And and that was a big state university. I really like that feature where whatever happens, if we're in EX school, whatever happens in EX is going to transfer across, usually within 10 minutes, but we tell students 15 to 20. And then I can check the transfers if something's wrong somewhere. That's super nice. And of course the price of this LMS compared to others. Now I know Moodle and there's some other that are free. We do like free, but those don't interface with our database system.
Right.
So let's see. That's you didn't send that one to me, so I didn't have time to think about that.
Well, and I kind of threw this in at when we spoke with the other gentleman at Southern Tech, and I even asked the question, why would a faculty member not use this LMS? How would you? Do you have any response to that?
Well, yes. Um, we have some faculty members that just want to do what they do in their classroom and they don't want to do anything with their shell. Um, Institutionally, we require every instructor to, at a minimum, keep an updated grade book. We want a full electronic grade book with the current grade, and we have had that policy 6 or 7 years. So that's just part of our culture now. We started that because we have a custom through Jenzabar where we actually pull grades. So it goes in and it pulls the grades out of every grade book, and we generate our early academic warnings 2 or 3 times in the semester. I use that same tool with it's been slightly adapted, I guess would be the word, in-house. We didn't have to go back to Jenzabar, but I use that same thing to pull a list of every student whose grade book is empty. So I can tell, if you get a list of 6 students in one class or 20 students in one class, the instructor is not setting up their grade book. And I turn that over to the supervisors, and they go in and have a chat with their instructors. So it's just part of our culture that you use it for the grade book.
Okay.
We are actually thinking about right now requiring a syllabus being posted on Inside and See in the course shell. So I flipped over to our syllabus page. We may have a different setup here. We have what we call a master syllabus, which the instructor cannot change. Then this is not a normal class that I'm showing you, but we also have a template for a syllabus supplement where the instructor can put information that's specific to their section. So basically what we end up with is the master syllabus and a syllabus supplement. So we do that this way, where they have the links, these are the files, it's a handout portlet, and the student can download it, or they can actually read it right here on the screen. And if I maximize one of these, you can see it big, and they can print from this, etc. So we are currently talking about requiring instructors to keep a syllabus. So I know that we have some instructors that only use Inside and See for their gradebook, but the number of sections that are like that is very, very small anymore. Okay. We have a lot of our face-to-face instructors that are web enhancing. They're running discussions for their face-to-face class, and they have them go in between classes and post. They're using this as the primary means of communication because the instructor can email students from their shell. So they do. So I would say the number one reason an instructor wouldn't use it would just be that instructor that's resistant to technology or resistant to anything like this. Beyond that, all of our online courses, it's their only option. They don't get the option to use Moodle or to use any other Web 2.0 tool. And we have some textbook companies that have their own portal basically for each class. And we require our instructors to use Inside and See. So they can use the resources from the textbook, but they can't use the textbook publisher's entire portal for their class. So it's really not a problem with our online and our hybrid instructors and most of our face-to-face instructors. The other big group that's kind of an exception, I would say, would be our lifetime learning courses and the instructors there. Those students are not, they tend to be senior citizens. They don't tend to be ones that would think to come in to the portal to check on their grade. That's just not how they grew up. It's not how college was when they were students. So we kind of have a little bit laxer regulations for lifetime learning.
Okay. Well, that answers that, but I have one last question for you. The one thing that attracted me to Jenzabar was the mobile app feature. Okay. Because most LMSs have a scaled down, they can only do a discussion or check a grade and that's it. What I was really impressed with was the robust features of the mobile. How do students react? Are they using it and is it beneficial?
Well, to be quite honest with you, our mobile app is broken.
Okay.
And it's one of the things that's on my list to try to configure and get that working. It's really a joint IT and me issue at this point. They came out a while back with the instructor center and the student center, and I was trying to move things around in there and somehow broke the entire center. So I don't know what I've done, but it was not a step forward, I will tell you that. And it sounds horrible to say that that's on my list of things to do and that it's not already done and checked off, because as you said, every student is mobile. They're on their phone, they're on their tablet, etc. The only reason that I haven't pushed harder and moved that up higher is the full site is working so well on the mobile app. If we didn't have that, we would have that mobile app done and
that
working.
Makes sense. That makes sense.
I mean, it's not really a good answer, and I can't really speak about the mobile product because in our experience, we've had some trouble with it.
I see. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was trying to think of other. I should have written down my questions I had along the way here. Can you take me through how to just simply maybe create a unit as far as like adding a Dropbox or...
Okay. Let me actually shift gears for just a minute. And this is a production class. It's a portal-only class, but it is going live right now. So I'm going to go over to a training class that I have set up so that I'm not messing up anything. And again, this is pretty much branded as our shell that we have for instructors when they get a new class created.
So you have a template that you put into a course shell?
We actually do. When the class is created, when a section is created in EX, it will transfer over to Insight and See. Now, I think when they're working on the entire semester, they can batch send all of those at once. But when that section is first created on the LMS, in the LMS, there is a template, and you can define your own template. There is one out of the box, but you can customize it. So this is ours, right, what we're looking at. We have a home page, the syllabus, which obviously these are blank when they first come out. Overview coursework, these are the pages this is what we have named them, and this is what every instructor sees straight out of the box. So one thing that you have to learn with the system is some of the portlets transfer their content while other portlets just transfer that there's a portlet there. So for example, coursework. If you do a course copy with coursework, every assignment, the unit structure, the points, all of it's going to come across to the new class. But a free-form context, it used to be called custom content, the free-form context, which is what we're looking at here, comes over as a free-form context that's empty. So you just kind of have to work with that. I don't think I said that right. Let me back up a minute. The free-form context is going to transfer. It's the blogs that come across empty if you're doing a course copy. But when you have the shell created the first time, when the class comes across and a shell is created, this page would be empty. So it would just have a blank box and the instructor would go in and type what they want in there. Or they could do a course copy and copy the content forward.
Do you ever have issues when you're copying content forward? Do you ever have broken links or?
The biggest issue that we've had in recent years has been with images. There is a new image upload tool that came a year or two ago, a couple upgrades back, and we've not had any issues with that. But we used to have the ability to take a PDF or a JPEG or any image and drag it into the text box and let it display. With the new text editor, we no longer have that ability. All those pictures that were there that way are gone. So they have to be uploaded through the image upload tool. The problem is you don't have that tool on a coursework assignment. So we are having a little bit of problems with images. It just depends on how the instructor uploaded it in the first place.
Do your faculty use the file cabinet?
Yes, increasingly more so. So the most common use of that file cabinet is going to be if a faculty member makes an online assignment, they give it to class in the fall, and they realize that they have a wrong question, a wrong answer coded, or they not coded, because you can change that. They want to configure the question a little bit. They have been saving it to their file cabinet and then pulling it back into the same class and making the changes and maybe changing the title, revised for spring, so that when you do the course copy, you delete the bad one and you change the name of the revised for spring back to the original. So we're using it sort of like that. If they want to make some major changes to an assignment, they would do it that way. A lot of them will save resources to the file cabinet. So bookmarks, handouts, they'll save those into the file cabinet so that they can easily port those from one class to another.
Do those copy over successfully? So as it would act as a repository, if you could get some faculty to link out of the file cabinet, that would stay intact for semester, and then when the edits apply, that would be when a relink would occur or an update. But it sounds like it acts as a repository. Is that correct?
The file cabinet is a repository.
Okay.
However, let me clarify something. If I'm an instructor and I'm needing to take my general psych class from fall to my general psych class for spring, I wouldn't need the file cabinet for that because I can just copy from fall to spring.
Right.
But if I have a set of files that I give every student that's in a class with me, so I have Gardner 1, Gardner 2, and I want just those two handouts to go to every single one of my classes, instead of doing a course copy of my full handouts portlet, I would save those two files to my file cabinet and then import them in the developmental psych or the psych of adjustment class or whatever I'm teaching that's not gen psych that I don't want those same set of files for.
With your experience, because we would have this hosted outside the institution, storage limits are applied. The file cabinet itself, as in the past, each course takes up its own space within the LMS. So if you're copying course from semester to semester to semester, eventually you're going to have to archive courses off the back to stay under your storage limits. So would that file cabinet be advantageous in our particular hosting solution because we would have those limits?
I would say potentially.
Okay.
And this may not be, we have some classes that are only taught once every 4 semesters or even less frequent than that. What I'm illustrating here is the yellow screen of death, which we know and love. My file cabinet is somewhat large because as the administrator, one of the other features of the course copy that's not as great as it could be potentially, depending on policy at your institution, you only have access to copy a class that you're listed as a faculty member on. So if Professor A teaches it in the fall and Professor B wants it in the spring, then the site admin has to do the course copy. So having that functionality, I can go to one instructor's class and dump 5 assignments into my file cabinet and go to another instructor's class and pull those 5 assignments into their class. Or I can take a set of resources and do the same thing. So I have quite a bit in my file cabinet. So I often get that. I'm going to try to go in again and see if I can load the file cabinet. I actually went through and did a big purge a couple years ago or a couple months ago and was doing better with that. But your question was about using the file cabinet in those instances. Mm-hmm. It would be far better, and we need to talk about what you mean by archiving, because it would be far better if you could export the entire class and keep it, say, as a zip file, and then import it into the new class. And we now have the course cartridge. If I go back to a regular class and go into my context manager, I have the option, if I can get it to load, we have the option to export. And we have the option to import into the course shell. So if you have textbook resources that you want to use, like a test generator or something that's from the textbook company, you can import it into your class. When we got this functionality, I thought that this export would take everything about my class and give it to me in a zip file so that I can come in and import everything about my class. It didn't work that way for us. And we were using it to try to recover lost content. So I'll talk about that briefly. When registration in EX, if they cancel a section, it automatically sends over a delete. So it's great when a student adds a class because within 5 or 10 minutes, they can see the course materials on the portal. But if a class is canceled in EX, within 5 or 10 minutes, you've lost everything that was in that shell. So that's very important to know. I've had more than one upset faculty member and director because instructors spent hours getting their class ready and then they canceled for low enrollment and they've lost it all. So we have, since we got this functionality, we try to do a restore to our test server. And I've gone into the test server and exported the course cartridge, brought it over to the production server to import, but the content is not there. What you get are the online assignments. So you can at least save your online assignments. That's not sufficient, in my opinion, because you've lost everything else. So all of those portlets that just had text in them, you're not getting that back. And I don't know of a way to archive. So maybe that's only an option that's available to schools that do use Jenzabar to host.
Well, when we currently use Angel and Blackboard, we send them a external drive and they will do a quick archive which actually compresses them and then they send the drive back. So we're archiving 400-500 classes a year, and some of them may be offered every semester, but it just took up too much of our storage space, and they were charging us an extra $32,000 for 150 gigs. So we had to end up doing some type of archive process where things fell off the back end after 2 years. And yes, those courses that are offered every 4th or 5th semester have been problematic. However, the restores worked, but we are concerned about that same instance happening with Jenzabar if they host it.
I would make sure to get clarification from Jenzabar because in my experience, that export tool is not sufficient for what you're wanting. However, this might be another option for you. We have the ability to have a portal-only course. So that keeps it on the portal. It doesn't go through EX at all. So there's no credit, no history of it on a transcript, no way the student's getting billed for it. We do this with our training. So the NC 105 and the 201 that we were talking about earlier are portal-only courses. The other thing that we're using, we've got some, like our athletics department is using a portal-only course so their coaches can take the compliance exam. If we go and look at the indefinite term, we've really increased what we're doing with our portal-only courses. First of all, we pay an instructor to develop a class if they're going to teach it as a hybrid or an online class. So what I will do is I will come in, and we've just called them FD for faculty development. So here's mental health nursing faculty development. So we made a section that's portal only for the instructor to put their materials in. The FRs are faculty review. So for example, we've got a Psych 100. We've got an online, a Chanute, and an Ottawa version of that course. Any instructor that's teaching, Psych 100 is our first year seminar class. So it's the first year experience for freshmen. Any instructor that's teaching that would have access to this FR section where they can talk to each other and share materials or do an entire course copy. So in essence, we are using portal-only classes to be that backup that you're talking about. So if we're going to cancel a class for low enrollment and there's not already a section open in a future term, I'll come in and make a portal-only section. You do the course copy into the portal-only section, and then you can have registration delete the real section. But the instructor does not lose the content of the class that way.
Okay.
Now within that, we also give the instructors that do the NC 201. You can see I have a whole bunch of NC 201 sections here, because any instructor that takes that online or hybrid certification, they get their own sandbox course. And honestly, I'm using initials. It's maybe not the best way, but you might think about that a little more. It might be the best way. We just went with it in the beginning. These classes that we're looking at right now are part of our indefinite term, which means they're always current. They will always show for the instructor under My Courses. So under My Courses, you're going to see whatever's up for this term that you're teaching, 2 weeks prior to start date and 2 weeks after the end date of the class. They'll show up under My Courses. All of the indefinites always show up there as well.
Okay.
So now, of course, if you do it this way, it'll use up more of your space that's allotted to you, but it would retain the full record of the class minus the blog portlet that doesn't copy the actual content. Now, Kay, a while back you asked me something about, was it setting up something in a class? We were in a class and you asked to see something.
Like setting up an assignment Dropbox.
Okay. That would be called a file upload. And I did it again. I went over to that training class. So if I go to coursework, our shell has 8 units, just because that's what best practices are for our online classes here. So we've defined those, but the instructor can change them. They can go to 6 or they can use 10. They can change the names of those. But if we want to add an assignment, you first decide what format you want. So your Dropbox would be considered a file upload. So let's trial. There are basically a few things you must put in, and that's a due date, and the name, the due date, the number of points if it's graded. I'll tell you one thing that our instructors are super excited about is this graded by rubric feature, which is brand new for us. We just upgraded in December, so they're all loving it. So I'm going to say this is worth 10 points. You can see there's a lot more that I can do here. and I can actually code when it opens. You can code the minimum and the maximum number of files that students can submit. And then step 3 is where you have instructions and directions, or description and instruction. So 2 blank text boxes. It took a lot of our faculty a little while to understand the difference between description and instructions. In a nutshell, whatever is in the description box is going to show up at any point that the student can see the assignment exists. So right here, if I were to code, turn this assignment on 2.5, notice I have this little checkbox to display to the students before the assignment is open. If I check that, it's going to show up and tell the students, hey, there's an assignment here, but you can't do it. The student would see the description. But the instructions are only going to show when the student can actually complete the assignment. And then you, as the instructor, can give the student a file. And then, so it shows up, it's italicized, it's not active right now. The italics means it's not active. The little light switch is a quick way to activate it. But you can see the due date, you can see what type, and I didn't change the, it's a format of upload. The type is assessment. I did not change that. But the instructor has, at our institution, has full capability to set their own types, if they call them tests or if they call them exams, or if they call them homework assignments or lab reports, etc.
Does that automatically link to the gradebook at that point? Or do you have to do something different?
Does that automatically what?
The assignment, does it automatically link to the gradebook?
Yes. Yes, it does. So if we take a look at the real course that we were looking at earlier in coursework, the other nice feature to the units, as you can see, these units are here, but they're auto-collapsed. This is all date-driven. So when it's within that date range, it will be expanded, or if it's outside, it will be shortened up there. For the instructor, let's say that it's next week, so we would be in Unit 2 of this class. As the instructor, if I had something from Unit 1 that was not yet graded, it would still be expanded for me. So I find that to be quite handy as a quick check on, am I completely done with that? The flip side of that is if you've got one student that's waiting to turn in back work, or you're waiting to grade their back work that they turned in late or something, then it's going to be expanded for you. So it's good, and it's kind of not good, but overall I think it's the right choice on that. But here you can see the forum discussion. Actually, if we go in there, and I'm going to flip over and show you from the student view real quick. The student has a completely different look and feel. These assignments are open. So they are appearing as blue links, and this is the description. So the description shows for the student before they click in. If we go into the private journal, now the student can also see the instructions. And right here is the link that takes them directly to that topic on the forums page. So that's a relatively new functionality. And the system can be configured to do the analytic component for the instructor, so the instructor can concentrate on quality. So as the instructor, I can code and say, every student must make one post and it must be 450 words, and they must make 2 replies and the replies must be 100 words each, or whatever the qualifications are. The software is able to do that, and it's also date driven, so that the posts must be within the right time frame or they're automatically not counted, which the instructor can override a little bit. Let's see. So it took me right in here, and I can add a post. I believe the rest of these on this first unit in this particular class are all basic assignments. And if we go Well, you can see Unit 4, that particular assignment shouldn't be, but it is coded to show to the student as while it's inactive. So that's what that inactive assignment's going to look like to the student. It's not red, it's grayed out, but it's a stop sign. And it says you can do this starting on the 23rd. So it does tell them, and if I click into it, I'm not going to see any information other than the description, which is what this purpose statement is right there. So if I come in here to Unit 2, what I don't like about this is if I have the assignments there, but they're not showing to the student sees there are not yet any assignments in this unit, which is actually not correct, because you can tell there's quite a few assignments in that unit. So that's a personal pet peeve I don't like. Here is an online assignment. So at a glance, you can tell if it's a basic, a forum, an online, or an upload. And I'm trying to find an upload for you. Here's one, the uploaded assignment, so that the student can, and it shows that way to the student as well. But the instructor at a glance has this nice table. They can see when assignments are due and what type it is, what format it is, etc. So if we go back over here and finish walking through, I think we walked through the entire setup of that. One thing that happened when we got that major coursework upload, a revision a few years ago, was they changed the, this screen used to be one long major screen, and now it's broken up into steps 1, 2, and 3. Step 1 and step 3, for the most part, are static. So it doesn't matter what format the assignment is, those look very similar. So you can see here the instructions and the file upload, that is exactly the same as the upload. What is different is the step 2. So here we have the LTI integration or reading. If the instructor wants to code a reading, they can do that with step 2 on the basic assignment. We can switch. So if we go over to the forum format, this is a little bit different in step 1, because at the bottom of step 1 here, you can see that I can connect this to a topic that already exists in my forums. That's how you get the system to sync up and know what topic is being used for this assignment and when to grade the points and when not. And that all is driven out of, well, step 2. I don't have a topic in there. I should let me go to the open discussion. Let me try that again real quick. Forum, general. I have to set it to general and then choose the open discussion. So now that I've got this assignment connected to a topic in my forums, I have all of these options that I can do from the coursework page. And down here is where you say everybody has to do one initial post, 500 words, and they have to do at least 2 replies, and they have to be 200 words or whatever the parameters are. So that has been well received by our faculty because they no longer have to do the manual check of the word count. So that's been good.
Yeah, that would be a good feature.
Is there anything else on coursework that you want to see?
They all basically work about the same way. Is that true? Whether it's...
Yes. And we've had instructors come in from other LMSs, and they tend to adapt pretty quickly.
Okay.
The gradebook does have some nice features. So the instructor gets to set the final grade weighting, and there's some options here. The most common one here is the point method, and then the type method. And a lot of people are using custom, because if you do custom, you can configure So my tests are 80% and my daily is 20%, but within my tests I want to use points versus using percents. You can do things like that. There's even, I was talking earlier about the verbiage that Jenzabar has coded in here to make it more intuitive to the instructor. You get so deep into that custom, at one point it says on the screen, too much micromanagement? Click here to go back to, so they're kind of funny with it too. But this has been a big improvement. The manual method would work great if you have instructors using, for instance, our concurrent instructors are required to keep Power School or whatever their USD is using. So they had all the high school students that are enrolled for college credit, their full electronic grade book is most likely in the high school component. We allow them to come in just to the grade book and put a percent. And that's done through the manual method. If I refresh this, you'll see I can just put in a grade for Peter right here. Mm-hmm. Other than that method, the grade book is read only. You can set the changes here, but it all comes from what's in coursework. That was something that wasn't real intuitive in the beginning. You have to get the assignment in coursework to be able to code the points in coursework, and then you can bring it over. It just comes automatically over into the gradebook. And you use gradebook to say, I want straight points, or I want this weighted method. So you use gradebook to configure how it's going to be calculated and what the letter grade ranges are. We also use gradebook to submit our grades. I don't have a class from our database right now, but when it's the right time to submit grades, there's a link that displays right here for the instructor that says submit letter grades. And it pre-fills attendance and gradebook data. So they just have to come in and review and then select the students and submit, and it goes right back into EX, which is quite handy. I could talk for hours.
Yeah, and there's so many different things that I'd like to see. I wish I had a copy of it so I could just go in there and play.
It might, it might be good to have another session that just focuses on the functionality of the LMS. I mean, I feel like today has been a lot of general and how does it work with and what's the tech aspect, etc. But it might be good just to really dive in, and you can say, well, we do this, and I can say, okay, I think you would use it this way, and kind of show you more. How do you make a page? How do you do, some of that stuff? Yeah. Would that be good?
That would be very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah. We are, like Gary said, we're on Angel Learning at the moment. We have an instance of Blackboard Learn in-house because we thought that was going to be the natural progression for us because we were on WebCT, Blackboard Bottom. We're Angel Learning, Blackboard Bottom, so we thought, okay, well, we'll just do Blackboard. So we do have an instance in-house that we're kind of working with, but just before the Christmas break, Jenzabar came into the conversations, and so we want to do our due diligence in looking at this because it, like you said, I mean, it's more affordable.
Yeah.
I mean, and it ties in with all of the the HR, the SIS, it ties in with everything, which is huge.
Right.
Because we don't currently have that.
I will say related to that, the average user here, our students, our instructors, they really don't know when they're in JIX and when they're in the LMS. It is just seamless.
Yeah.
So the whole portal, and there's functionality, there's portlets that we use in the LMS that are JIX portlets. So even within the LMS, sometimes they're in a portlet that was designed for the LMS, like coursework. Is a prime example. And other times they're actually using a portlet that was a JIX portlet that was just used in e-learning. So that kind of gets for if you're going to be the administrator, that might be a little learning curve to know, okay, this is an e-learning portlet, this is a JIX portlet. But the average user doesn't even differentiate, well, I'm in a class, so I'm in the LMS, or I'm enrolling, so I'm in JIX. It just is seamless. I'm paying my bill, so I must be in JIX. You know, they don't think like that.
Yeah.
They just say I'm on Inside and See.
That's a huge plus.
It is. Well, I'm looking at my calendar. How quickly do you want to do something? If you want to schedule another meeting like this to take a look.
Well, you know, we're kind of in a time crunch,
Okay.
but we don't want to. We also want to. We don't want to take up your time.
Well, last week was horrendous. I actually have a pretty open chunk tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
Let's see. I could possibly meet. My daughter's in the spelling bee, the county spelling bee, so I'm going to go to that, and I don't know what time I will be back. But I could potentially do something yet this afternoon. I have one meeting it's scheduled for an hour and a half, and it might get done early. What time zone are you in, though?
Central.
Okay, all right. So my 4 o'clock is open this afternoon, and could be earlier than that. But I also have tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the afternoon as well.
Okay.
So you tell me what you would prefer.
I have a 1 o'clock today training session.
Marie, how does your Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of next week look?
Let's take a look at that. Monday afternoon is a possibility, 2:30 on.
Okay.
Tuesday morning is good at I'm missing an appointment on Tuesday. I don't know why. I think at 10:30 I could do, or shortly